so what they did was these donors are the ones that are coming and say, you know, there you be ambassador pitch in. And also, my question is like, once you get the pool of the money, where is going to be the distribution of what country? Because everybody need help in Asia, in Africa. What country do you go first? And you can see this is where you need the political will is going to come. Who's my allies? Who's not? But like I said, this is the 45th International Literacy Day. So my math is not good, but they started probably in the 1960s or early before that. That's when they started. They gave the rule that this is the problem. They defined it, but then now it's become more political. Do I support Africa or Asia or where? So that too, once you get the money, it became a different game. Yes.
So yeah, I had a question in this context. Like when you think about this money driving, what kind of education you're getting, it's like not, Dr. Burns was talking about the development of language, the literacy happening in the indigenous people. You know?
Yes.
So, and their requirement is kind of very different from the requirement of other people. You know? So, so do you think that there is some kind of a new knowledge system which is coming up because of the native people are working in those kind of areas? You know?
No. No, not to be too abrupt on that, but Native peoples are in contact and they're interacting with all kinds of things. And actually in Latin America there's a big movement called intercultural bilingual education, where it's Native peoples learning from each other. So the Dinka are learning from the Maya, and the Maya are learning from the Garifuna, and things like that. And so the idea that there are indigenous knowledge systems somehow growing up outside of the world context, I don't think that's really true. They're growing up intertwined with, like a tapestry, like a cloth, but they're not popping up like mushrooms, you know, in different ways. So you know, that Actenamith, which I'm using as an example a lot today, they're on 3G computer networks. They're using Google. They're working in Spanish as well as in Mayan. So they're maybe creating a model, but I wouldn't call it a quote indigenous model. It's maybe a intercultural model.
I have a question from somebody who came to our daytime event today, who wanted me to ask this, and I guess following up on what you guys have been talking about, this seems kind of relevant. Is there an effort to construct primary schools in remote, unconnected villages and towns in sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia, in an effort to spawn literacy where it has been historically non-existent? He's from a small rural town in India, to give a little background. And he talked about how you have schools, you have, one literate person in this whole village teaching the entire village, but when that village loses their one literate person for a generation, you see the loss of literacy for a generation. I guess to go a little further into what he was talking about.
I would just add one thing. Yes, in my case, for example, 2 months ago we got independent. So back to the whole country, 85% of the whole country, actually 65% who are holding the position are not very skillful, even in terms of reading, in terms of holding the office. But in terms of effort that we do, is we acknowledge that even me, that's why I went, for example, to build a health clinic in the remote, which is rural area. There's another group that I mentioned called Project Education Sudan. They actually have about five schools, one from my village and many villages, the other 4 villages, to answer that. So that the point here, instead of starting in an urban setting where all the NGOs, everybody's there, it's a new country, everybody's pitching in, you are missing at the lower level. And so yes, in that term, and I think that's how, and you heard many people like experts say, you are going to the remote of the remote. And I remember in my experience, if I am in high school and I finish high school, I go back and teach 4th grade. That's how I grew up. If you're in 4th grade, you go back and teach the kindergarten, preschool. That's how the sort of the teachers, and you learn by practice, I guess. But it's because lack of that. So that's what they do in those villages. If you finish a high school, you go back and teach 8th grade. If there's somebody finish college, you come in. So it's like those trends. So yes, there has been a lot of effort, at least in that context of my example. Now, in different countries, varies on immigrant. Some people come here, have a heart like me, and I want to go back. Some people, I say, forget it. I have enough. The United States is perfect. So it depends who is the ambassador, who's the one to do the work. Most of the experts or panelists, you heard them, they're doing different studies, but they're American. Technically, they say, hey, forget it. I will be in America. Why does he have to go to Guatemala? You know, he has a very good life. He can teach here. So the point is to be able to go on the bottom. It depends on who's the role model. Either a community level or a leader level. It depends how much do you want to work. I don't know. That's my take that I am blessed to even be here in the United States, so it's my job to go teach them whatever I can to use this knowledge, because we are very smart in the United States, so we don't need more people here. So we need more people like in the remote areas so we can teach them. That is my opinion. So yes, to answer, is there an effort? Definitely. At what level? I don't know. That's my take, you guys.
Is there any other questions? Yeah.
So, we've been talking about what literacy is. I mean, coming from, I think everybody in this room here is kind of literate and educated, and that's probably why we are able to, understand and reason out different ways in which we learn things. Versus, I really wonder if there has been a direction towards defining what elementary education is, even with all these different types of, let's say, graphics or symbolic education and things like that. I think those are things that we have perceived and kind of, implicitly grown with it, with our elementary education. But that if you have to give that as education itself, if you have to treat that alone as education, I still feel like there's something missing there, because we really don't know what we learned, because it's this process of evolution that we've all gone through, and you can't really pick out. But how is that happening? I mean, I really was surprised at something like starting to read with, starting to be literate with computers or mobile phones or whatever.